Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Candid Founders, where we give you a candid view of a growing business. In this episode, we will be talking you through what Andy learned when he went to a recent event with IMRG, which is the UK e-commerce association. He met with directors from large retailers across the UK to discuss investment ideas for 2023, where they're investing their budgets this year in order to grow their business in the current climate.
Yeah, and so there's kind of like three main things that I took away. You know, where's the industry going? Where are these large businesses investing? Where are they spending their time, their resources? And probably crucially, where they're not spending it. And then the third part was really like, what are we going to do as a result of that? Obviously, it's great to spend kind of a few hours learning from the big dogs, but what are we actually going to do as a business?
Nice. Yeah. So you're fresh out of the event this week, and we haven't really discussed how you got on yet because we wanted to do it on the podcast. So can you just give us a quick overview of what this event actually was?
Yep. So it was about 15 directors from some of the largest brands in e-commerce in the UK, which was awesome. They were everyone from, gardening and home, jewelers, pharmacies, grocers. And it was a chance for people to get together and share, what they're doing in the industry or what their plans are this year. Obviously, the backdrop this year is quite tough: cost of living crisis, inflation, Ukraine. But I guess that's kind of similar to what's been happening in previous years, and maybe a bit easier than previous years. So where are they growing and what are they going to do? So it was just kind of a sit-down event. The IMRG team ran us through the industry data, and then we were kind of split up into tables, and we were all sat down next to, similarly large retailers, and it was, really interesting.
On that, it makes me think when you said the current climate that we're all trying to grow our business in, it almost feels like, we've only been in business for 5 years now, so we're very fresh to it, but it feels like there's just something else each year to say, but this is going on, so it is affecting. Every year there is something. Yeah, Brexit, Trump. Like, I'm sure this would have been going on. We had like financial crisis after financial crisis. So it's almost like this is just normal for business. There's always something. Last year it was the strikes in Ukraine, and it's still Ukraine, and it's it's a bit up in the air what's going to happen with Royal Mail. So it's like there's always like something going on that affects the supply chain and how we do business. It's just who survives, really.
Yeah, and it was interesting, the industry stats that the team shared is that week on week for the past 3 months that we've been down compared to year on year. And it'd be interesting to see what that was like last year, because I imagine we were probably up year on year, but this year it's down. And so what was interesting as well to hear kind of like, what are they thinking about where we're going to grow, and how is the industry trending? And so everyone was like, yeah, we're probably down in the first quarter, but maybe, and this is maybe false positivity, but everyone was kind of thinking that we're going to grow between 0 to 10%, or at least that was the vast majority of people. Obviously, some people are growing a lot, some people aren't growing as much. There was a small study on kind of the 8 largest providers in that market, and some were growing 30%, some were growing kind of they're not 10%, maybe minus. So interesting to see what was happening. And as a small business, we were bought in because we have an opportunity, I guess, to share with these large CEOs what's happening in our small business, because we kind of touch every area, whereas they wouldn't maybe understand exactly what's happening with conversion rates at the very small end of the thing, and what are Facebook doing to kind of combat that, whereas we would, and they'd have probably a broader overview of what's happening in the industry with their experience. So that's where we bring our unique, I guess, skill sets in.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Actually, I hadn't thought of that, because it's when we go to these events, the people we're meeting with have a very kind of niche view of their particular area of the business. And I guess, a director level, you've got a much more high level view without like the detail. But because we're living every part of the business all day, every day, we do have a completely different viewpoint to them. And I think, we obviously take a lot of value from going to these events, but I do also like to think we're bringing some value. The last time I went to one, we were sitting on a table and I was talking about how we're going for B Corp, and some of them had not heard of it.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, so I think it's things like that I like to think we can influence positively at these events as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of the people that I was sat next to at that event, I just had some really valuable conversations with. So I was sat next to a pharmacy, a jeweler, and actually a music retailer, and all really fascinating businesses. And from the jeweler, I learned how hard they were pushing into, kind of that loyalty opportunity. So they had previously thought, okay, we're going to continue to acquire customers, they'll come back naturally, but what are they going to actually do to force that loyalty opportunity? Force is the wrong word, but to bring those customers back in a way that works for the customer and that works for their business. Really interesting to share as well, kind of the revenue curve between these different businesses. So, naturally we're 50% in Q4, if not more, and they were the same in these businesses. So it's kind of really a feast or famine. And how do you kind of make that feast that you have in Q4 last a bit longer? So bringing in those loyalty programs, bringing in that subscriber programs. And I learned that really, really clearly from this jeweler. From the retailer, or I guess the pharmacist retailer, really interesting to see how they've changed post-COVID as well, and how they're growing different businesses that they've got. So as everyone moves online, what are they going to do to actually, grow online? And then how is their core business, with their stores and the bricks and mortar areas, what are they doing to kind of make sure that it stays healthy, even though maybe a lot of people are not going into London, for example, or they are coming into their kind of local stores where they live outside of London. So I thought that was fascinating. And then we had a music retailer as well, and they shared how many SKUs they had. And I think I shared this with you already, but they had almost kind of 1 million plus SKUs, and they have some hundreds of thousands of SKUs where they sell them once a year, which is just ridiculous that they can that they make that work, but they do. They've got a trusted
For context,
brand.
how many SKUs do we have, being a much smaller?
About 350 at the moment, which is a million SKUs.
And sometimes we manage to even we struggle to even manage them. Like, wow, okay, they're oh shit! Did you ask them how they even manage this? Like, how do they do ordering?
It was awesome. They obviously don't have a million SKUs in the warehouse, but they do have relationships, kind of like an Amazon, with some smaller providers that provide those kind of niche, guitar strings or what have you. So it's really a little bit of everything, and this was kind of like CEOs direct. So where they're talking, where they're pitching is, what are they going to do at the top level, which is pretty much where we are as well.
1 million SKUs, that's crazy. Okay, so the event was about asking directors where they're investing in their businesses, where they're looking to grow, how this year. Did you go into detail on that?
Yeah. I hope so. So IMRG surveyed maybe 100 directors or so, kind of at that CEO or CEO direct suite level, and asked them, do you think you're going to grow this year? More than not, they did think they were going to grow. Most thought they were only going to grow by a small amount of those that did grow. But there was also quite a lot of people that thought they were going to shrink a little bit. What I thought was really interesting as well, and IMRG shared this, was the correlation between advertising budgets and growth. And so those that are going to grow or projected to grow are really heavily investing in advertising, and those that aren't investing in advertising. Funny that. So
you got to spend money to make money, basically.
Yeah, but you can see that how uncomfortable you can get in a business not wanting to spend money quite quickly. I mean, we see that sometimes when we look at the bank account. We think, oh gosh, should we really continue to spend?
Absolutely. You kind of sit there and think, oh, I want to cut every cost. Like shut off Facebook ads, shut off Google ads. They're taking so much of my money, but then we just wouldn't get any customers. Like, you can't just solely rely on repeat custom.
Yeah.
It's sad state of affairs. You still have to keep spending, even if that just hurts you a little bit.
Yeah, that's something psychologically there as well. And then they also shared kind of where they are investing as well, which I thought was awesome. So a lot of them are thinking about new product acquisition, new products, going into new product categories, moving internationally. And there was a lot of the industry would describe as channel expansion. So moving into bricks and mortar stores, going into different platforms. And that was kind of one of the big drivers that people saw. Interesting to see that people are thinking of moving outside of their core product categories. And for us, that's kind of like how we're considering, maybe not considering too much, but we've got socks. What are the other areas in particular during summer? Do we go into slides or something like that? But these large businesses are thinking about that as well. Yeah,
a real diversification. Actually, I want to go back to your point about retailers expanding into bricks and mortar, because that's a really interesting point, because it feels like there's all these conversations over the last few years of like, is the high street dead? Where's it going? We're seeing shops close left, right and centre. So like, obviously there are shops that are now wanting to expand online, but is it going the other way as well? Like, are there places that are now looking to expand into shops, even though some are closing shops? It feels a bit backwards.
Yeah, well, I was sitting, one of the industry participants I was sitting next to, they were going heavier into shops. Wow. And their shops were actually performing better than their online store. And everyone kind of thought that was this like COVID snapback almost, and that should be over. But they were continuing to see it. So they're actually continuing to invest in their store network. And, you know, they've got a relatively good, opportunity there, similar to us. If we wanted to open a store, we could be quite like a hole in the wall type of thing. We could get it relatively cheap. You know, we've got probably enough SKUs and designs to fill out the store already. We just really have to kind of find the right location and then start to sell and see how that goes. So if we wanted to make that a core part of the business, and that's really what Happy Socks have done before as well. So it doesn't seem that the high street is totally dead, but it does seem that it's maybe changing a lot.
And obviously it still would be quite a significant cost for us to go into bricks and mortar, and it's not something we're actively looking at. But I have thought about it in the past, and I think a good way for us to do it would be some kind of maybe pop-up proposition that you do. You know, you can hire a store for like a 6-week period or shorter, or you can almost go halves with another brand and just kind of bring a few brands into one spot. I think there's this company called Appear Here, and they offer retail spaces out for short amounts of time. So there's it can actually be quite affordable depending on the size you're going for and the location, but that's the kind of route that I would possibly take to start with. Just because, there's no way we could afford like a full lease when we don't know that it's going to work.
No, honey, we're going into Oxford Street.
That's it. You know, the old Top Shop? IKEA not having it anymore. Is that his bare kind?
Are they not? I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, I told you, I've already signed the lease.
Oh, God. But one of the things we also did was we bought our socks. We're trying to bring our socks into more places. So obviously, you know, we've got quite a few socks in the warehouse, and using that as an opportunity to talk to our retailers that potentially might purchase them. So there was a pharmacist there. I gave them a pair of socks and I said, look, we're in, a half dozen, maybe 2 dozen pharmacies right now, and we've got, obviously gave them the pitch. It's thermoregulating. It's going to do really well. We've not even got, black and white socks, and they're selling like crazy. So consider us. So I obviously naturally gave them some merch, and they were actually going to run the London Marathon. And I said, use our socks. And he said, I will, but I'll use bamboo, but probably not these ones. I gave him the bees. And then I also gave them to the jeweler, the sheet music provider, or retailer that was next to us, just because I learned so much. We're on the lookout for a really strong non-executive director that is like, I guess, kind of got that e-commerce fashion background, so they can talk to us about the product rhythm, marketing rhythm, and the generalities of running an e-commerce fashion retailer. So that's what we're looking for. So I gave them as maybe a little bribe of like, I'd love to hit you up one day and kind of share with you what we're doing. Yeah. And then the other one I shared with IMRG. Obviously, IMRG have been pretty great to us so far. We're learning so much every single time we go. Hopefully we give a bit of value to the people that are around us. So obviously naturally going to give it out to them.
Yeah, nice. Slightly off piste, actually, I want to talk to you about your pitch. You are very, very good at pitching us just in person. Like, you're happy to just go up to someone and be like, hey, we're great. And I don't know whether it's like an Australian thing or just like you are quite a confident person. And I can't do that as well. Like, I can if someone asks me and then I get into it, and I am very passionate when I talk about the business.
If they're showing interest in you.
Yeah, if they're showing interest. But I would struggle to go up to someone and just pitch straight to them and be like, this is, you should stock us. Like, have you thought about this? I actually would really struggle to do that. So I just want to talk through, I'm sure a lot of other people listening might feel the same. So I just want to talk through what you do when you go up to pitch and how you kind of have the confidence to jump in.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think that you've got to really like embody, if you were like to say, okay, this person is a sock mogul. You're like, okay, I'm a sock mogul. This is my job. Like, I'm going to be that person and I'm going to act up to it. So I'm going to go to the person and be like, hey, I'm Andy. I sell socks that save the animals. And they go, what? And they go, yeah, I sell socks that save the animals. Got my little tote bag. Here's the sock. check it out, and then they're looking at it, and I just go for it. What the worst that's going to happen is that they say, "Oh, cool, dude, yeah, whatever, next," and that's like the worst that could happen. And what are they going to do? Like, that doesn't affect me at all. One of the things that I'm increasingly learning, and this is the opposite of I think what you learn from a big corporate, is success is actually probably being hated by more people and loved by more people. So whereas a corporate, you're maybe more of a vanilla milkshake, a chocolate milkshake, which kind of everyone likes, but there's a lot of vanilla and chocolate milkshakes out there. So, but what if you're like a salted caramel with whipped cream and
Marmite milkshake?
Yeah, like you're different. Maybe not Marmite, God, but something different. And so we're just looking for those people that love us, and they will stay. The people that kind of like us, fine, that's okay. But if there are people that hate us, that's probably means we're doing something right. So if we get a hater off the back of my pitch, amazing, I win. What a result.
Like, so, I mean, we're not doing anything like super controversial. If anything, it's more on them if we turn around and say, look at this nice product, which, here's a pair for you or your family, and we're helping to save animals. And they go, "Puh, you're an idiot." Like, I'd be like, "Okay, mate."
Thanks. So are you. Yeah. No, but one of the things maybe kind of on this of what I wish I'd done differently, there was a lock provider, and I wanted to go up to them because they were sharing, what they did, and I just didn't, and I'm kind of kicking myself post it that I didn't go and say, "Hey, this is what we're trying to do with growing our subscriber base. This is what we're doing with trying to grow, our returning customers and how we're using email to do that." And they had some really interesting ideas which they shared, and I wish I'd gone up to the guy because he had the the confidence to actually kind of say something in the room, and I wish I'd said, "Yeah, look, I've got the same problems. This is what we're doing about it," and I didn't. So
next time,
but yeah.
So the other thing I wanted to ask before you wrap up is, obviously, it sounds like you learned quite a lot at the event. So is there anything that we are actually going to do off the back of it with Bearkind, or explore maybe?
I think the main thing, and I talked about it just a bit before, was around, as a business, we really need to smooth out and increase our non-core period sales. And how are we going to do that? That kind of feast to famine and make sure that it goes out throughout the year. So I think the kind of big things that we need to do, and we've spoken a lot about that, is going into a subscriber box. So we have an opportunity to, sell to these customers and sell to them throughout the year. We've got a great product. We should stand behind that. I know anyone and everyone that has, totally changed their sock drawer and moved from, from any other sock to our socks, that it's been a great journey for them. And so how do we kind of encourage people to purchase maybe 2 socks a month every month, and kind of smooth that out? And then the second part was more like the loyalty program. We know that customers love us. We know that they give us ridiculous reviews. So how do we, keep them coming back to purchase as well? How do we encourage those customers that have done the best for us, that we give them the best journey that they possibly could? So doing some type of loyalty scheme, I think, is crucial for us.
Yeah.
And something we've spoken about maybe over the past week or two, maybe even month for subscriber, and I'm now super convinced that it's the way we've got to do it.
It keeps cropping up. We've spoken to a few brands now that do subscription boxes, and they just said it's just so powerful to have that kind of reliable cash flow each month, that they know, whether they have subscribers that kind of pay whenever they want, or whether they have like just a, maybe the 20th of each month, they get like that kind of boost of cash. And that's what we're really looking for at the moment. Wholesale gives us that. We do have some consistency there, where we have retailers that we can kind of see the rhythm at which they're repurchasing from us, but a subscription box would really give us that. And I think we want to start looking at testing that and kind of ironing out the creases of that before we get into main gifting season, because obviously that's going to be a fantastic gift for people at Christmas. So yeah, something we're going to start looking at. And the loyalty program, again, I think I signed up to one years ago, some kind of Shopify app that I looked at, and I didn't really get much of a high uptake. But also we have so many more customers now, and a lot of those are returning. So I do think it's now's the time to start looking at that again, whether that's a Shopify app or another way of doing it, I'm not sure. But yeah, I think we should be rewarding our customers in a way, whether that's a point scheme or, I don't know, we'll have to have a look and see what the options are. But I'm seeing a lot of brands doing that.
Yeah, and I think that's a good place to stop today. Yeah. what I wanted to share is I heard this really great thing the other day, and it was about kind of, we're obviously doing this for you guys. We're trying to build up, I guess just a database of knowledge. It works for us, and we get to like reflect on what's working well and what's not. And we hope that, there are other businesses out there that are learning a lot from this. So I quite like this idea that I heard, and it was like, it's almost like a gentleman's agreement, or you kind of all get together and you say, guys, like, look, we'll continue doing this if you like, and subscribe and follow for more. And it's just kind of like a wink and a nudge to say, thank you guys. That would mean a lot to us. So if you do, please do that. Like, subscribe and follow for more. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. See you next time. Bye.